At the very least, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for the Kings that even when you feel like you've got a game in your grasp and you're doing pretty solid for yourself, you cannot take your foot off the gas. You cannot coast to the finish line.
The Oilers came back from a 4-0 deficit, tied it with a minute and a half to go, and 40 seconds later, the Kings, back from the dead, end up winning in regulation. We were streaming at the time, and we even discussed, wouldn't this just be so rich if this didn't even make it to overtime? Wouldn't it just be a perfect cherry on top of this game for either side? And you could roll the tape. I said, I will not even be mad if the Kings win this and do one of those classic, no, you don't get to have the good story. And the Kings end up doing it on an insane, weird, fluky goal with a sick jump screen from Warren Foegele, Danault's second goal of the game. Pete, how do you begin to describe what you saw yesterday evening?
A lot of asshole behavior, I suppose. Like the Kings, you made the point during the overtime stream. You were like, this will be a moral loss for the Kings, essentially, if they only win by 2 goals.
I did not say that. You accused me of saying that, and I denied it. But, and again, I still deny saying that. If someone did say that, it would have been prescient, but that was not what I was going for.
Sean can back me up. I think we both came away with the takeaway that was essentially like the energy of what you were saying.
No, I said, and you can go back and watch it. I said the Kings need to be up by 2 more goals than they currently are, and they were up by 2 goals at the time. And you said why? I said, if you're going to run the Oilers out of the building in game 1 and you're trying to exercise these demons, walk out of there being like, we absolutely killed them. And you were saying, oh, so you're saying it's a moral victory for the Oilers? But I said, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you should be up by 2 more goals than you are. And as we were having that conversation, the Oilers came back and erased the deficit, which is not even something that I was considering. And I said there in that clip too, if you pulled the receipts, I'm like I don't think they're coming back. This isn't some sort of, the Oilers are going to walk out of here being like, hey, that wasn't so bad. They'll probably walk out of there being like, we're never going to be smoked that badly again, which I think is maybe fair. But they end up completing this insane comeback, giving the Kings the very rare combo of must-need, amazing, like gotta-have victory and asshole watch.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you can't. I think the big question that Sean asked this morning was like, who feels worse after that game? And it honestly might be the Kings, because like you had a game where the Oilers did play terrible. Like they played terrible. They were rescued by the efforts of a pretty superhuman Connor McDavid. And you still, like, you come away and you go like, are the Oilers going to play that bad again this series? I don't know if the answer is no, but I don't think you can for certain say that it is, that they won't play that bad again.
I agree with that. I think that there's certain elements of things that will not totally be repeated. I don't think the Oilers are going to regularly go over on the power play. I don't think Wallman and Nurse will be paired together again, because that was the worst game. Or I'm sorry, Wallman and Bouchard will be paired together again. You could say that like they might be assholes again. I totally agree with that. The asshole-ish levels of Evan Bouchard last night were godlike.
Unbelievable.
Off the charts.
Godlike.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame asshole performance.
And that is relative to what we expect of Evan Bouchard. Yes. Like, we expect him to be an asshole a lot of the times. Unparalleled levels of assholeness from Evan Bouchard.
Yeah. And that's why, like, one of the notes, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but an interesting element of that game was I don't think anybody had both goalies posting an identical 800 save percentage in that game. I don't totally know what I expected out of that game, to be honest. I think I was leaning, and my wagers speak to this, I think I was leaning Kings eke one out and take game 1, and that's usually what happens in these series anyway. The Kings win the first game, and I think we come out of it being like, oh, hey, I think we're going to have ourselves a series here. That would be my guess. I still feel like we have ourselves a series, and it's going to be, but more in a like this is going to be absolute fucking madness.
It can be insane. Yeah, I mean, like any Oilers series has a 98% probability of being fucking insane, and that's when you're like, I didn't know what to expect from this game. Like you can't expect anything because any outcome from an Oilers game makes sense. Like the Oilers get killed in game one, I think it would make sense. You'd be like, all right, this is the first time that this team has played together as this group. You're getting easing a lot of these guys back into action. Evan Bouchard had an asshole game. Of course, we got our asses kicked. They come out and they stomp all over you. You go, okay, they've got the best players in the world. This lineup is kind of back to full strength. Okay, of course the Oilers won. And then they play like a psychotic, deranged game like that. And you're like, well, they have both things in them. So of course this game went this way. That's why we love the Oilers. I don't know if that's exactly why you love the Oilers, but it's why I love the Oilers, because any Oilers game has every possible fucking outcome on the table every given night. And we got like the most insane version of it last night.
This, I don't know if this falls under copium or hopiism, as I like to call it, but I do think that we are not giving, or at the time even as that game when it looked like it was out of hand, I don't think enough credit was being given to the Kings and how well they played through the first two periods. The Oilers were absolutely being assholes, but if you hold a team without a shot on goal for 16 minutes, like you are doing something very well.
Especially when it's that team.
What's that?
Especially when it's that team. You're not holding just a team. You're holding the greatest player of all time.
And really, Sean, it reminded me of, remember the first couple of games of the Canucks series last year where it was like, I'm not going to be extreme and say this team has solved McDavid, but they are managing the McDavid experience.
Yes, because I remember having Petey on. He talked about how they managed to do that with the Coyotes a little bit. Like they just keep somebody above McDavid the whole time.
And the Kings were doing that. And I was like, yeah, we're going to have ourselves a series here. I don't think that it'll happen forever. And at some point I was thinking, I was like, it's probably not going to be a shutout. McDavid's probably going to do something once or twice and maybe a goal ends up coming out of it. But Oilers are getting run out of the building tonight. That's fine. The Kings are better. We've talked about it. The Kings are better than they've been in years past. And I thought the Kings through the first two periods, yes, the Oilers were being assholes. Yes, you go goal by goal and have a different player whose neck you want to wring. First goal, Josh Brown shouldn't be killing penalties in the NHL, shouldn't be doing anything in the NHL. Second goal, Stu Skinner, slow to react on that rebound coming across the net. Quentin Byfield, our king, throws it off him. Great goal for Byfield, but that's one that Skinner has to stop. And then the next two, Bouchard being an absolute asshole. Pizza thrown right in front of the net.
Crazy.
Papa John.
And throws a pizza in front of the net to two Kings.
Yeah.
Kings who are by themselves. And then
they both got a stick on it. Like that's how wide open they were in front of it.
Yeah.
They both touched the puck.
I love that because Byfield got an assist off that because he literally just stopped the puck and then handed it off.
It was like, oh, dude, I'm fucking sorry. I stepped on, like if we're like talking over each other where it's like, oh, you go.
It was pretty similar to the play earlier in the night where Slavkovsky almost touched the puck in the slot but decided to let Cole Caulfield score there. And I laughed at the announcers. They were like, oh, what a great play. What a heads up play by Juraj Slavkovsky there. It's like by just getting out of the way and letting the better player shoot.
Sometimes that's what you got to do. Know you are.
So that was the pizza one. I was referring to the fourth goal, but the third goal, the third goal, I should say, Skinner makes the first save, and then Bouchard leaves Kuemper alone in front, and Kuemper scores point blank, which absolute stud. I know, Pete, you want to suck on Kuemper. He rules.
That's right, baby.
So
No, I was just rewatching that goal, and it's just like you have four Oilers below the red line.
I thought you were laughing at the suck on Kuemper.
I mean that too.
Yeah, I'm dangerously close to getting my blank Kings jersey, an Adrian Kuemper jersey.
And then we have the fifth Kings goal, Fiala one-timer on a 5-on-3, which we all saw the time and penalty. Tough call, but whatever. You don't lose games if you don't like. You're a penalty. Like if you're gonna do if it weren't for that bad call, it would have been closer. Like the list of things that if it weren't for is very long for the Oilers, and they're pretty much all. If your guy didn't fuck this other thing up.
But bigger picture, like first few days of the Stanley Cup playoffs, there have been a number of egregious calls, and that's added to the list.
And as a fan, I'll be unabashed here. Like that does feel so fucking bad, especially if your team is kind of out of the game and you need any sort of break and you're like, fuck, man, like my team isn't giving themselves any breaks here. They're not breaking through. They just need one fucking bounce.
And that was that got a 5-on-3. Did it not?
Yeah.
We've also had multiple ref injuries in these playoffs already. Like twice at least, we've had linesmen replaced by refs, which, as they've talked about on the broadcast, is a whole thing in and of themselves because those guys are not used to doing that job or whatever. But
sometimes it seems like they're not used to doing their own jobs.
Yeah, fair.
How do you feel about Darcy Kuemper in this game?
I mean, like, I didn't think the goalies really mattered all that much. Like,
I totally agree. I think it was a wash, which to me, like, I think that Darcy Kuemper is better than Stuart Skinner. So coming out of that game, you're like, I'm pretty calm. That will be my pull quote. Pete's was, I have a brain. Mine will be, I'm pretty calm and not worried after this game, sincerely, because I think that this is going to be a series either way. That's fine. But if I want to do the, like, if you're coping, what do you take away from it? Like, if both goalies are going to have the same save percentage in this series,
that's
feel
a win for the Oilers.
Pretty good about Edmonton, because Skinner, yes, has proven to be a good postseason goalie, but Skinner isn't a good goalie this season. But I didn't think he was good. I didn't think he was bad last night. Same with Kuemper.
I think my big question for you is, like, do you feel bad at all that that game from Connor McDavid was wasted?
No, and that's where I think entitlement shows, or like being the big brother in the rivalry shows, where the Oilers could afford to lose that game, knock on wood, maybe, because maybe the Kings come out better in the next game and they play a better 60-minute game, which I expect them to. But I feel that the Oilers can afford to lose that game more than the Kings could. So I know that this kind of ties into who should feel worse after that game, the losing team or the winning team. I talked to Kings fans after the game, and there is no hiding that when McDavid tied that game, there was a horror felt throughout the building of, oh my fucking God, it's happening again.
I mean, Drew Doughty said it after the game too. He was like, thank God we won that game, because that would have been a horrible loss.
But all of that is kind of why I think the Oilers should feel worse after this, because, like, it'd be one thing if the Kings just won this game 6-5 and the Oilers, like, just slowly chomped down on a lead. But the fact that the Oilers tied it and then immediately were just like, go fuck yourself, you lose this game. Like, the fact that it ended like that specifically in that quick of a time frame, I feel like cannot be good for the Oilers.
This is going to be nitpicky, but obviously, it was like 10 minutes into the game. The Oilers are down, and Knobloch's already doing the Draisaitl McDavid Hyman thing. I was like, I want to strike him.
I'm not.
You know, it's
I'm not fucking worried about it.
But like, so the Knobloch factor, I think, is worth critiquing. If you're an Oilers fan, do you critique having Bouchard on the ice with the game that he had had?
I thought you were just going to end the sentence.
In the fight. Yeah, yes.
Do you critique having Bouchard on the ice?
But you tie it, you're 90 seconds away from, or 88 seconds away, I should say, from going to overtime. And we were talking about it live, like, fuck it. Maybe they're like, let's just go win this right now. Kings are dead. So maybe that's why you have him out there. Also, you don't have any defensemen because they're all hurt. Troy Stetcher was out in this game. But my first thought when we were streaming during it, and then I kind of rewatched everything after, and I was like, fuck, I really would have liked to not have Evan Bouchard on the ice in that moment, in what was just a cherry on top of the worst game he's ever played in the NHL.
Yeah, they miss Cody Ceci so bad.
They do.
I know. It's not a joke.
I mean, we're going to talk about Ceci in a minute. Like,
I was going to say,
you want to talk about overtime heroes? Cody Ceci.
I mean, my takeaway from, like, the Oilers and Game 1, I guess, is just, like, the lack of stability with regards to that team, because outside of McDavid and Draisaitl and, like, them just being gods and alphas every single night, it's like, what do you have that's stable there? The back end's not stable. The goaltending's not stable. And with Knobloch's, like, kind of psychotic coaching behavior, you're getting new lines every 3 minutes. So, like, where is the stability, and when do you find it?
But
you need stability over the course of a 7-game series.
So, Sean, I was going to ask, does that team necessarily need it in this series? I don't think that they do.
I think that
like you're not going to go anywhere.
Kings.
I think you're not going to go anywhere if you,
I mean, you need
you saw what happened last night though.
Yeah, but you can't rely on McDavid to have like the best game ever for 7 straight games.
I don't think you need stability from the skaters if you're getting stability from Stuart Skinner. Like I mean, you kind of saw that in the cup.
Well, if
but
that's
like,
what you're banking
but
on.
exactly, there is absolutely no reason on a game to game basis you can expect stability. I mean, I guess that's what stability is. Like, yeah, if Stuart Skinner is not going to be a factor one way or the other, like you need some kind of stability from somewhere outside of those two. I would agree with that.
I mean, and again, when you say need, we're talking about if you want to go anywhere. I completely agree. I've just seen too much to think that they can play like assholes and not win this series in 5 games,
I mean,
let alone 7.
I know people like to get annoyed with Oilers talk and how we talk about it. The Oilers genuinely are like a different case. Like you don't really need anything when you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I've said it before, we could be out there and they're still going to manage to win a game every once in a while because they have the greatest player of all time. So like, Bouchard can still be an asshole. They almost won the fucking game last night. They don't need anything really.
And that's why the Kings are kind of shaking in their boots after that game.
I don't think they're shaking in their boots, but I do not think that. I think Oilers fans are well within their right to not be all that worried quite yet.
At the very least, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for the Kings that even when you feel like you've got a game in your grasp and you're doing pretty solid for yourself, you cannot take your foot off the gas. You cannot coast to the finish line.
Especially because it was Connor McDavid that did it. Like, it's very much like, oh, yeah, that guy is still him.
That was a thing that you can bank on happening again over the course of the series, which is, oh, right, like they have a couple guys that can just seize this game and take it back in their control. And that's exactly what McDavid did last night.
The Kings are not going to leak a drop in game 2. And my predictions so far for this series, other than thinking that the Kings were probably going to win last night, have proven incorrect or not super accurate. But I think the Kings are not going to leak a drop in game 2. The Oilers won't go 16 minutes without a shot on goal, but from puck drop until the end of regulation or overtime, whenever it is, the Kings are going to be a lot tighter.
I said this when we were on the post game show when we were in Edmonton, and I was like, they got their ass kicked by the Kraken. I was like, I don't feel like you can learn anything from this game. I don't think you can learn anything from any Oilers game ever. Like you just don't know what's going to happen in the next game. So it's like, I agree. Like I think saying that Oilers fans, I agree that last night was probably a little terrifying for Kings fans, but like to say that they should be scared more than they were coming into the series, I think is a little ridiculous. But like, yeah, I mean, Connor McDavid could have 4 goals next game. And it's like, what are you supposed to do about that?
There are a couple of people in the chat who are doing what I would expect them to be doing. Is there was a feeling last night that I was seeing, and people had to kind of come around on it, is like, why can't we say the Oilers suck? Or why can't we say that like the Oilers are fucked here? And when they were down 4-0, I mean, get those in then. But last night happened. Like
the thing is, it's all cyclical. Like you have to know that. Like the Oilers are going to suck for stretches. Then they're going to look awesome for stretches. That's the entire experience. It's just, I think that for me, the reason why I'm a little skeptical about their outlook is that the stretches are more prolonged. Like the stretches of them sucking are more prolonged than they were, I would say, like last year, with the exception of under Woodcroft.
Yes, I would agree.
And they're going up against the best version of the Kings, which is a big part of that as well.
It was an unbelievable game.
Going to be a great series.
It was an unbelievable game. And maybe the Kings end up sweeping this series. It'll have to be a lot different than it was last night. But
so that's what I was going to say. Like anybody that's accusing copium or anything, like at the end of the day, if you're a Kings fan and you feel confident, I think that's ridiculous too. Like you won the game and they deserve to win that game. But like to say that you think you're confident and the Kings are like going to dominate this series would be a ridiculous take.
Nobody should feel particularly amazing.
That's
that you don't start the way that this segment started who should feel worse
Right.
if either team should feel great.
Yeah.
So that's
But the
thing.
other side of that is that neither team should feel bad because, like,
Oh, yeah. Oilers should feel confident. They definitely shouldn't feel blasé, and I don't think they are. I think that they were probably livid with how they played last night. But obviously, there's the positives you can take out of it, which is like, we played that way for 1 period. Imagine if we played that way for 3 periods. And on the other side, the Kings have shown, like, you know what? We almost had some like, the unthinkable happen to us, and we fucking hung in, and we survived it. So both teams should have stuff from last night that they hated, but both teams should be like, oh, yeah, we got this.
Also, the game was in Los Angeles. Like, the series will go back to Edmonton, and that is a whole different scenario.
We all silly like the mayor.